Welcome to the Candid Conversation Show. I'm your host, Marilyn Fontaine, artist and creative coach for women who want success and income with ease. Hi, this is Marilyn Fontaine and welcome to the Candid Conversations. This is episode 21 and part 2 of the Diary of an Urban Healer. Now, I don't know where to start with this one because energetically I'm a bit tired after having my retreat, which was amazing, the awakening retreat, for solstice. And yesterday was a summer solstice, and I'm just feeling tired is not the word. It's not exhausted. I just feel like that pause. So we're still in solstice energy because the solstice runs from the 21st to the 23rd, but the energies of it. So I'm still in those energies. So I am going to try and give the story as best I can, like this part of the story as best as I can with the capacity that I have. So if you remember last week, I talked about my panic attacks, my journey into spirituality, and how the book Living in the Light really impacted me and changed my life at 21. This part of the story, I'm going to talk about the journey into, changing my life, changing my whole career, becoming a practitioner, surrendering to the goddess, and discovering sacred sexuality. I'm not going to go into those things too much because I think they need to come into later podcasts when I speak with people, but I will talk about my journey in terms of the people that I met and how these things shape me and the work I do with women today. Okay, let's have some water. And so, I think I might have still been where I left off was age 33, working for the council, decided that I wanted to do beauty therapy and massage therapy, and realising that working, being in this job, going into work and hating it was not what I wanted for the rest of my life. I would literally lose my mind. And I remember doing a nail course and then training to be a beauty therapist first, and then being a massage therapist afterwards, and studying aromatherapy. And I was at Tower Hamlets and council, and there was issues with the boss that I had, so I had gone off sick. And before I'd gone off sick, I was training to be a teacher. So I remember the City Lit had a course, and it was 4 weeks, how to teach and train in complementary therapies. And being able to teach and train in complementary therapies and using that as it was a qualified teacher training, but they packaged it. And I remember when the woman came to see me teaching, I was teaching women that had just recovered from domestic violence. And when I went in to teach, they would not look at me. It was standoffish. So I thought, oh, God, it's not going to work. And then afterwards, how they really bonded and really gelled with me and with the teaching, it just changed my life. So when one of the teachers came to observe me, she just said to me, I can't believe you've not been doing this for ages. You're natural. Do you know, at 30-something, 31, 32, that was the first time somebody had said to me, I'm a natural. I can't believe I'm doing it. That was like the first major compliment I had for my capability. I'd never had that kind of compliment. From a partner, yes, or a few friends, but on a professional capacity, I'd never had that. I just burst into tears because I'd never heard those words. And I think that became addictive because I always wanted, alongside my people-pleasing personality, but to hear that I was really good at something, it just blew my mind. Just really changed how I operated. And for her saying that to me, she don't realise what she did for me. And so I started to teach a couple of hours, and then when I was having problems with Tower Hamlets, I just walked out. I literally went off sick, and I'm not going back to that shithole. They don't really care about your mental health. Didn't come back. So I sent them a letter of resignation while I was off sick for 6 months, and I asked my massage tutor, Aisha Khan, I never forget, said, have you got any jobs for teaching? And she said, start Monday. So I resigned on Friday as an admin assistant, and I started work. Newham College has a lecturer on the following Monday. And I remember, that made me realise, I remember seeing somebody from the council I worked to, and they said to me, oh, what are you doing? I said, I've got a new job. What are you doing? Oh, you're doing some admin work. Nothing against admin. But remember, as a black woman, I was always felt like I was less than in these establishments because I never saw people being promoted. If they did, it was few and far between. And the way sometimes people spoke to you was just not a healthy place to be in. Now I realise that's their opinion, that's their faults. But at the time, I was just really in it. And I remember saying to this guy, no, I'm a lecturer, and the face of this person, it's the way he looked at me. I'll never forget that. The shock on his face. And it was, I do believe it was a racist thing. But here was this woman that was an admin assistant, black woman, is a lecturer. We don't know those things. He was completely shocked. And I just never forgot that, and it made me feel so proud of where I was. I loved working at Newham College. I loved being a lecturer. And during that time I was also working at Bliss Creative Health Centre in Portobello Road. So first I started off doing beauty, and then I started to do massage, healing, aromatherapy. So I was just doing those with clients, and I loved it. I was earning good money. I was enjoying what I was doing. It was amazing. And I was teaching my students massage and beauty. Fantastic times. And that was probably 2000 to 2004. And it was just amazing. And then I was walking in a shop, like the whole food shop in Portobello Road. And I saw a leaflet, Goddess Workshop. And it just made me think, I really want to do this to bring back to my community. So I rang up the lady and she said, why do you want to do this course? And I said, I want to do it to bring back to my community. Little did I know, it changed my whole life. And at the time I'd been in a really weird situationship with somebody. And prior to that, I'd had a relationship that was not nourishing, not satisfying on all levels. And I just was questioning, like, what is going on in my life? Like, where am I going to find joy as a woman? All I can say is that when I went on this workshop and I experienced, it was Anna Zion, a woman later taught me part of the format I use. I used to use her format all the time, but I've since changed that. It just changed my life because I felt a connection to myself as a woman, my sensuality. As a black woman, it was amazing. The liberation I felt from being in that workshop. It was challenging as well because I felt like I stripped so much of myself, who I thought I was to be, away. And I felt reborn in that weekend. It was a weekend workshop away. I'd never been away. I was like, what is this devil, witchcraft stuff? It was one of the most amazing experiences. I came back different. I went as a mortal, came back as a goddess. That's all I can explain. Because when we get in touch with authenticity, there's nothing like it. You cannot explain it. It's just so potent. And that feeling of being, of an amazing goddess. So it was amazing. That's all I can say is that when you connect with yourself, that part of all of us within us, there's nothing that can match that. And we think that it's a fluke and that it's not the right, not the right thing, and that it's a one-off, or it's because of the other person, it's because of the facilitator, it's because of the guru. It's not. It's our connection with the God within us. The creator God, whatever you believe in, it's that connection with the all. And it's like a sweet nectar that secretes itself from your consciousness. I don't know, it's just unbelievable. And it changed me. It changed me how I saw myself as a woman. It changed me in terms of a joy that I never thought I could experience. I've said this before, that my life, as though it's been fun in aspects, and I feel like I've been really blessed, like hugely blessed, ridiculously blessed. And that's why I take the work I do seriously. But my life was a battle at times, and it was in this space. It was that moment, knowing that I'm connected to something bigger, that kept me going. I really believe it, and that's what I seek to do when I work with people, to get them to connect with their self. It's not an easy ride working with me, but it's one of the best decisions you can make, because all I do is bring you to yourself, tap you on the shoulder, say, look, here you are. It's not even like looking in the mirror. It's just like feeling your essence. And our essence is more powerful than anything external. And so for me, I just walked, talked and acted differently. But I still 100% didn't know who I was. Still 100% didn't maintain that in my everyday life. But I'd say 60%, 70% I knew. And how I received myself as a woman in the presence of a man was totally different. So I knew what I was bringing to something. And so it just made me research on what do I need to explore. I need to know more about this goddess energy. And that led me to the Taoist, the Universal Tao, and the Jade Egg practice, which is a energetic practice. The Jade Egg is a feminine practice. I've got a podcast on it. You can go back and listen to that. I'll put it in the show notes. But that led me to the Jade Egg and Universal Tao, the microcosmic orbit practice, connecting with your energy body. So I was part of the Jade Circle, and I would go there monthly, and I've done their training up to step 4. And I got into the work of Mantak Chia, and that really helped me in terms of maintaining that, because that energy was strong. And it's really important that when you do have a spiritual awakening or spiritual realization, that you maintain that with some sort of practice, whether it's meditation, qigong, massage, healing, coaching. It has to be. But I would say if you're having coaching, you still need to do something physical that is consciously physical. And that's why those practices, I still use them today, like the inner smile, the healing sounds, the iron shirt. They all are really important to building your body, your energy, your strength. It's as important as weight training as well. And so the Jade Egg got me into a connection with my body even more, because I felt really disconnected, as a woman, and I just connected to my body, and it helped with my periods at the time, but I was still in this grind. So even though I was having a good time and I was working with clients, I was teaching, I was still using a lot of my essence. And I think because I just started to touch on human design, but I didn't know it as much. But I felt I needed to hustle to get what I needed to get. And so I feel that with that hustling, I feel that it impacted my womb area more than anywhere, and also carrying stuff from childhood and not processing it properly, not giving myself the space to do that, and also seeking relationships where I felt that I had to be the healer. And that was one of the biggest impacts, influences in my energy. The impact on one of the biggest impacts on my energy is because I was rescuing everybody. So I was constantly on the drama triangle where I was rescuing all the trauma phone response, where I was people pleasing. So even though I had this potential, this potent power, this goddess energy, I was just giving it away. Because that's what I thought. As a healer, I need to just give this power away. I need to give it to people. I don't know enough. I've got this power, but I don't know it enough. I don't deserve to hold it enough. And I do believe, speaking about it now, that kind of belief comes with the fact that we've been conditioned to keep doing, and ease equals death. Because if things are easy, it's not correct. And hard work equals life. Ease equals boredom. And I do believe that, I had a conversation with a client today and she was talking about that. And, that dopamine rush of trauma and, having to chase our tail, but we're running away from a thought and a feeling. We're running away from a part of ourselves. It's like a rush. So it makes us feel alive. And therefore, all we know is struggle. You think about it, especially women of colour and immigrants. Where in our history do we know peace? Even when you go back to the Caribbean or Africa or India or other places, because of colonialism and white supremacy, even if you're in your own country, there's still the energy of the slave or the lower class citizen. There isn't a space of ease. Because people still have the mindset of a slave. They still have the mindset of an immigrant. And so the space where we should be relaxing and feeling calm, our mentality has been running the show. And so when you see people that say, I'm going to retire and return back, they're not running. They think that by returning back home, they're going to leave. They're going to feel better. But no, they're bringing the same thoughts. There's a niche. Who wants to coach returnees? People that want to return. There's a really good niche that someone could have. Mindset for returnees back to the Caribbean or the African diaspora. That would be a brilliant, not for me, but excellent coaching thing. So, with that being said, I just feel like, and I digressed, but it's really important about the ease thing, because I feel like I was told you've got to work hard, and you've got to really grind to do this. And it was good in its purpose, but I worked incredibly hard. As a teacher and a lecturer, when I taught massage, I went above and beyond my job. I would make sure that my students not only had massage information, that they had body psychotherapy bits, they had bits of healing, they had bits of energetic psychic protection. I would go in because I felt I needed to give them so much that when they went out there, they knew what it was like out there, because in colleges, you just teach them the bare minimum, the anatomy and physiology, you teach them about being out there. But I had to tell them, this is one thing, if you're a massage student, or, you're told, you massage, you do you do a consultation, you give half an hour for a consultation, and then you go for the client's case studies, and then you do a massage. When you are in a clinic and you've got clients back to back and you're paying hourly for that room, you don't have time for half an hour consultation between each client, because that's money. In the clinics, you're talking, or if you work for a beauty salon, you're talking about 10 minutes tidy up, if you're lucky. So I had to find a way to, how can I make this work? I would give my consultation form to the client to fill in and give it to the receptionist to give it to them. When the client would come in, I'd have to clear for bed, get ready, get the client in the room, get them, ask them a few questions, but get them in between the two clients crossing over. I had to literally go through the consultation with them. It literally took 10, 15 minutes because you just didn't have time. Some places they will do that now, but back in the day, you literally 10 minutes in and out. You had to make sure they did consultation before. If it was a client you knew already, you were lucky. But new clients, 15 minutes tops. If you're lucky, you're going to find out what's going on. So I had to explain this to my students that, you do, if you're working from home or you're working in the clinic where they do have time, then that's fine. But a lot of clinics are going to have you. I mean, Bliss didn't require this. I was paying for the space. But I realised I would have no clients and no money if I had to keep to half an hour consultation. So I had to make sure that my consultation was 15 minutes. So, but, I would give my students so much because I wanted them to have the best. Also, I wanted to be the good girl. So I would give a bit above and beyond. Some students liked it, some students didn't. When I taught personal development, it was the same thing. I would give because I felt I'm not doing a good job unless I pull out my kidneys and give it to them on a plate. So it's a bit of a strong analogy, but you understand, that's exactly, and I would always be burnt out because I would always overgive. Because I don't believe in not giving people value. And I realised that a lot of the other tutors just didn't care. They would just give what they had to give and go home. But I always thought I would get in trouble. And so I was seeing a lot of clients then, but during those times at Bliss, I loved it because I could get to do healing, I could get to see clients, and Bliss taught me about charging what you needed to charge to earn your money and be compensated. And I realised the more I did that, the more I was able to enjoy my life because I showed up better. I felt more appreciative. And then I remember walking into my local library and finding a leaflet for NLP, free NLP course. Applied for that and went on an NLP, and that changed my life again because by this time I was getting repetitive strain injury from my arm, so I couldn't do as much massage as I wanted to, so I needed to shift. And while I was doing an NLP course, it was for a whole year and it was being funded by the European Social Fund. I met some amazing people, but what NLP did for me, it gave me the protection I needed. It gave me tools, mind tools, to be able to not just pour into clients so much, but to be able to work with what's going on with their mind and understand how much the mind helped. I actually gave up smoking after 16 years by doing the course. And then there was a coaching course a year later, another funding that was free. I was able to do an introduction, and then afterwards I paid for a BTEC coaching qualification. So that's a national in England. And it's not the International Coaching Federation, but it's a national qualification. It's equivalent to undergraduate degree. So when people talk about coaching qualifications, you've got to be with this, you've got to be with these people, it's actually your practice. I've trained in body. Then I trained in mindset with NLP. And then I trained in coaching. So I've learned all body systems. And I've trained in Reiki, Indian head massage. For me, I feel like I've got so much foundations of a lot of disciplines to national level. So I know how to hold a space if a client's traumatized. I know if a client's got a medical condition. I'm aware of it because of my training as a body therapist and an aromatherapist. I know what plant and oils are going to do for my clients. I can prescribe them. So for me, I feel like I can deal with clients, their traumas and what's going on with them. However, there's still space to be updated in your knowledge. And I find that a lot of coaches that they come out into the space and they don't have a lot of background knowledge of clients. And it's not just as simple as just about, going to change your mindset all the time. There's still a way that you have to work with clients to see what's going on in their body, because the body keeps the score. And so it was really important. And also with my Taoist training, which is so good because it can help people have tools to work through their self and also strengthen my system. So I eventually had to leave Bliss. I gave it up after so many. I had a relationship breakup and I just thought my body's hurting me. And then I just went into teaching. And then I coordinated the hair and beauty. Still working on my development. I was still working with the Universal Tao, going into that even more. And I started to blog and create my play shops, my own goddess workshop, my play shops more, and start to see coaching clients. And it took things on the next level because I was just enjoying teaching, but I was exploring about what happens to us, our mindset, our spirit. Yes, this body work is good, but what's happening? What else is happening? And so I started to really look at what was happening with me at the time. And I again felt that inner calling, that boredom, that there's got to be something. The same shift I had when I left the council to work, to start teaching. I felt that same energy. I'm a bit bored. What am I going to do? I'm teaching. I'm enjoying it, but there's a restlessness. And then I started to join online groups. So MySpace, I started to write and blog, and I started to be part of a community, and I just started to do creative journaling. And that took me to another space. Because now I'd met the goddess, and now I was learning about my, different worlds, energy, Taoism. But I was operating with these techniques, but art was calling me back. Creativity was calling me back. It was as if something was coming from within again. So all the experiences of the people I worked with, the groups I'd worked with, the students, I'd worked with Asian women, Black women, Chinese women, people that was in prison, people that, everywhere. So this was when I started to work for a company called CAST, Creative Women Supportive, Creative Women Trust. And I started to use my creative journaling. And that's where I'll stop, because the final part is how I got back into art, which led me back to here. And so I hope you enjoyed this little diary of an urban healer, because I go into, my art, I go into orishas, I go into magic, I go into more sacred circles, and working on a retreat abroad, and doing my own ancestral worship. So let me know how you felt that this episode impacted you, if any. And until then, bye for now. You want to be part of an incubator of some amazing creative women, then you need to join the Highly Capable Creative one-to-one program with me. To join, you can just contact me at www.mjfontaine.co.uk and book a sales call with me to join this amazing 6-month program where we get to work on your creative business. We also get to work clearing your blocks and also bringing that confidence up to 100 so you can stand in your agency and live your best life.